Overnight, Israel launched a preemptive strike on Iran, with explosions reported in central Tehran near the compound of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Israel has declared a nationwide emergency. The operation was coordinated with the United States, and Iran is warning of retaliation. Breaking overnight, Israel launched a preemptive strike on Iran, with explosions reported in central Tehran.
Been texting with sources, and one of them just came back to me to say that Senator Chuck Schumer is calling for Congress to come back to town as soon as possible and to hold a vote on the War Powers resolution that was already likely to be slated, Ali, for sometime this week, sponsored in part by Senator Tim Kaine. We've seen them try to make headwaves on things like this in the past. They did one on Venezuela. It ultimately failed. Now they're trying to do one on Iran, and they're doing it, of course, now in the wake of these massive strikes launched by the Trump administration. Been texting with sources, and one of them just came back to me to say that Senator Chuck Schumer is calling for Congress to come back to town as soon as possible and to hold a vote on the War Powers resolution that was already likely to be slated, Ali, for sometime this week.
Detailed customizable dashboard that is free for users. Follow them at Pike. They went after President Pezeshkian. When Iran's foreign minister was asked if Khamenei was still alive, his response was, and I quote, "As far as I know." That's not confidence. That's chaos. Multiple high-ranking IRGC commanders, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iran's elite military leadership, confirmed killed. This isn't random bombing. This is systematic elimination of command and control. Now let me tell you about Iran's response, because this is where it gets
محمد حس چیه؟ حس چیه؟ خیلی خوبه. حس آقا زدم. بوزن آزادی آزادی. بزن آزادی. شبکه خوبه منو.
وای به تو زدن. وای به زدن. وای به تو زدن. وای.
Now, we've got new reporting here at CNN. We were wondering whether the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. A source now telling CNN that, in fact, the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. And so we have to wonder whether the U.S. will now be attacking next. Back to Jeremy Diamond now. We've got new reporting here at CNN. We were wondering whether the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. A source now telling CNN that, in fact, the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. And so we have to wonder whether the U.S. will now be attacking next. Back to Jeremy Diamond now. We've got new reporting here at CNN. We were wondering whether the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. A source now telling CNN that, in fact, the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. And so we have to wonder whether the U.S. will now be attacking next. Back to Jeremy Diamond now. We've got new reporting here at CNN. We were wondering whether the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. A source now telling CNN that, in fact, the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. And so we have to wonder whether the U.S. will now be attacking next. Back to Jeremy Diamond now. We've got new reporting here at CNN. We were wondering whether the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. A source now telling CNN that, in fact, the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. And so we have to wonder whether the U.S. will now be attacking next. Back to Jeremy Diamond now. We've got new reporting here at CNN. We were wondering whether the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. A source now telling CNN that, in fact, the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. And so we have to wonder whether the U.S. will now be attacking next. Back to Jeremy Diamond now. We've got new reporting here at CNN. We were wondering whether the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this attack. A source now telling CNN that, in fact, the U.S. and Israel coordinated on this.
About nuclear weapons. This has never been about nuclear weapons. This has been about Israel's regional hegemony in the Middle East. Israel wants to topple the Iranian regime, period. It has said so. This is not a mystery. This is not my claim. This is Israeli policy repeated year in, year out. The whole idea that Trump is negotiating to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Duh. That was negotiated. Trump ripped it up. The Iranians have come back every year to say, we don't want a nuclear weapon. We want negotiations. The United States does not accept yes for an answer because it works for the government of Israel. This is the point. Why does it work for the government of Israel? It's a little hard to understand. Maybe because it's of Mike Hucklebee's parishioners, because of people who read the Bible and say, okay, that's our foreign policy. That's possible. It may be because of what's in the Epstein files that haven't been released. It may be blackmail. It may be corruption. It may be many other things, but it is not about America's interests. We have no interest whatsoever in going to a war with Iran right now. If there is such a war, it's a war because Israel has told the United States what to do. And that raises a question. Why has the United States done what Israel has told the United States to do for 30 years? And I don't just mean about Iran. I mean across the Middle East.
Produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is
Iran could produce
It was delayed by a few weeks because those protests just didn't get as big as America and its owner had hoped for and paid for. Might want to get a refund there, lads. But hey, it turns out you don't actually need a reason to go to war anymore. Just decide you're going to do it. Come up with some narrative and push it. For example, we need to bomb Iran because they pose a threat to the region. Last I checked, it was America's owner that had killed tens of thousands of women and children systematically over the last few years. It wasn't Iran. Oh yes, but Iran posed a threat to the region. Last I checked, it's America who've conducted regime change and attacked sovereign countries dozens of times in recent history. It wasn't Iran. But hey, who cares about facts and reality? Let's just push a narrative out there, such as we need to increase women's rights in Iran by bombing the country, or we need to bring freedom to Iran by bombing the country. How's that worked out for Libya? Iraq, endless examples. Yet what bends my brain to the max is that you see liberals who actually believe the narrative. You see these liberal Iranians pushing to have the region bombed. Anyone who knows anything about the Middle East knows that no country and its people benefit from the West and its owner bombing a Middle Eastern country. Yet people are still supporting this. That's what really spins my... I can't even put it into words. This is the same old game. The war machine keeps turning. Take American taxpayer dollars, create a war, channel those funds towards the war, and whoop, 9 out of 10 of every one of those dollars straight in my pocket, thanks. That's the game. They are creating demand and then fulfilling supplies. The military-industrial complex. Anyone in the information age with a smartphone in their hand who believes the narratives and doesn't just realize this is the endless war machine doing its thing is absolutely naive and should be ashamed of themselves. Anyone calling or cheering for war should be ashamed of themselves, and they've never actually seen war. Sorry. Any fellow veteran like myself who knows the reality of war, they ain't buying these narratives, they ain't cheering for war. Shame on the warmongers and shame on those who believe the narratives. Honestly, it's the information age. People should know better. Sad day for humanity.
She reported alarm sirens are active. We've got alarm sirens in Bahrain, which is meant to be the pinnacle of security and wealth. And also reports from Reuters now that, I've been very hesitant to say the Strait of Hormuz being closed, or the IRGC just essentially said no vessels are allowed to cross the Strait of Hormuz. This is a closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we'll see what the U.S.
No
can do.
No escalation ladder, nothing. I think Trump was not expecting this.
No.
Iran was very careful in the 12-day war in what to strike, in warning the U.S. in advance before striking their base in Qatar.
Yes.
In this case, there's no warning whatsoever, and they've just crossed all the lines. Their strategy is very different.
Yeah. And Trump's strategy is to consider what he did in the tail end of the 12-day war as a great success. I mean, we still have on the White House webpage the fact that, or not the fact, but the statement saying that all of these sites were completely obliterated. And anybody who tells you different is lying. That's still on the White House website. And I think Trump believes his own propaganda. He's very susceptible to people flattering him and building him up. He's the kind of person that is basically able to adopt these ideas and believe that not just he is invincible, but that the military he oversees is equally invincible. And it is not. We have big problems with the Gerald Ford, the USS Gerald Ford. I guess it's still parked at the port of Haifa. I guess you heard about all the issues with the sanitation system. Yeah. Well, the important thing about that is that ship, that carrier battle group has been to sea for over 240 days. Normally they're out for 6 months and they come back for not just rest and recreation. They come back for repairs, needed repairs, logistical resupply. So they were expected back in Norfolk after their Caribbean operation to conduct another amazingly successful regime change, which apparently Trump took to mean that this is easy. So, you know, these guys on the guys and gals on that carrier have had themselves extended. They were on their way to Norfolk. They got diverted. Their toilet systems don't work. They're tired. This is when mistakes happen. This is when errors happen. This is when, I mean, it actually, you know, political stupidity of the military leadership, which is what we see with using that particular carrier in this way. It is going to lead to big, terrible things, really bad things within. And this is not even to do with the war. This doesn't mean they're going to be targeted by Iran. This means they're going to make a mistake. Accidents are going to happen. And then what are we going to do? Oh, well, Iran caused us to have an accident. The other ship, the Lincoln, is an older ship. It's got its own problems. I'm telling you, I think Trump thinks we're capable of everything and anything. And that's not true. And I'm surely there has to be people in the Pentagon that explain to him the potentialities of what he was getting into. And if they did not, then they have not done their job. And if they explained it to him and Trump decided he knew better because he's had so much military experience and he's fought so many wars, you know, he knows how to do these things. Well, clearly he doesn't. And, you know, that's a big problem for this country. I mean, we're very poorly led when it comes to foreign policy. I mean, I think it's been obvious to the rest of the world.
It is. I'm just so shocked this is happening. I'm so shocked that this regime change is the end objective unless Trump seeks an off-ramp.
But is it really the end objective? I mean, the riots and uprising that we heard about in early January, that was well reported. This is, I don't know how many people they said were killed by the Iranian government, and I don't even know what numbers to believe. But what we did find out was that Israel and the United States both took a great deal of credit for making that happen. Okay. And it's very much like a color revolution. Like we saw in 2014 in Kiev and in the Maidan thing. And we've played this out in multiple places, usually for much smaller countries with a lot less at stake. So that to me was not a genuine uprising, and clearly it was resolved very quickly. You know, the polls in Iran show the people, even before they were attacked by a common enemy, pretty much were supportive of, for the most part, their form of government. Maybe they didn't like this and that, and the sanctions certainly caused unrest. But, you know, then you attack them without any justification. Really, you know, and lie about, you know, we're having diplomacy, but then all of a sudden it's attacked. It's a replay of what they did in June. That brings people together in Iran. That brings Iranians together. That does not say, oh, yeah, the country that did that is hosting our next leader, you know, Reza Pahlavi, whatever. They don't want him. And they certainly don't want somebody. Yeah. And, you know, this is so funny because right before this, and even in conjunction with this, Trump is saying to the Iraqi parliament that they are not allowed to pick a leader. They can't pick Maliki. Maliki's run the country 3 times before, I think. No, Trump doesn't want them to pick. What business of him? What right does he have? And this arrogance does not sell well anywhere in the world. It certainly doesn't sell well in the Middle East.
Do like Israel.
Hold on. And he loves Israel too.
It's true.
2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. 6 years ago, I was up here, and I said, "This is our first Jewish president."
It's true.
Now he's the first Jewish president to serve 2 not consecutive presidencies. We thank you for everything.
That's right. Bad things happened on the second one. Namely, the election was rigged. And we found out, and you see that happening.
And you are the greatest president. Thank you very much. And God bless you. I miss you. I miss you.
Thank you. Thank you.
این شهدا ملحق
آقا ما به جاش برسه 100 تا رفیقم دارم. این کلیم قدیمیه، با شمشیر که نیست، با اسلحه و غم و هرچی بگی میام کف میدون. الان موقعشه که ما بیایم کف میدون. اومدیم کف میدون، خیلی هم عصبانی هستیم. امیدوارم که جنگ زمینی پیش بره، یه جوری باشه آقا جهاد بده، اون موقع ببینیم مادر کی.
اضرب 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 اضرب
If these family photos, if any of your activities online, if your purchases, if your associations, if your
It's pretty contained for the moment, emphasis on the moment, but that's probably going to change tonight as U.S. air assets get involved over the Iranian battle space. I just want to make a video for you to send to anyone you know who's a veteran or currently in the military who's really banging the war drums. The United States is the greatest threat to world peace, global stability, and is the most lawless nation on earth. I'm fourth-generation Army. I grew up in the whole arsenal of democracy propaganda. I was in a special operations unit during Obama's Afghanistan surge while we were propping up pedophilic narco warlords in Kandahar and Helmand as part of a nation-building exercise. What that means is the government takes all your tax money and gives it to private contractors to prop up a government that nobody wants. If you are in the military right now, just know that you are not serving your country. You are not fighting for freedom or democracy. You are fighting for about 1,000 odd child trafficking, parasitically wealthy billionaires who do not believe in countries or nation states in the same way that you do. They believe they are above that peasant stuff. You think little Marco Rubio is in charge? You think dumbass Pete Hegseth is actually in charge of the Department of War? The person who's running the Department of War is the private equity billionaire deputy director Steve Feinberg, who has never served in the military, but who was the head of DynCorp International, a private military contractor until 2020. You are fighting to make rich men who view you with utter contempt even richer. It's 2026, y'all. It's time to grow up. Every imperial war we fight is a war on the global working class, of which you are a part. These billionaire MFers don't believe in international boundaries when having class consciousness, so why do you? What's happening right now will further immiserate your material conditions, and you have more in common with your average Iranian than you ever will with the pedos you're fighting for. Again, you are not fighting for America or a democracy. You're fighting for inhumanly rich child cannibals, essentially, who think you are cattle. So have fun with that. It's a difficult process to de-propagandize, but I have faith in you, and I believe you can do it.
Go vote for Ron Paul, a first-time caucus voter, Corporal Jesse Thorson, who is 28 years old, and you are active duty U.S. Army. Why did you vote for Ron Paul?
Well, I'm really excited about a lot of his ideas, especially when it comes to bringing the soldiers home. I've been serving for 10 years now, and all 10 years of those have been during wartime. I'd like to see a little peacetime Army, and I think he has the right idea.
Now, you have done 2 tours in Afghanistan. You told me you're going to go back for a third tour. I mean, if you can see your neck right there, what you have on your tattoo, 9/11, remember, and a picture of the Twin Towers. You know, some Republicans out there have been saying that Ron Paul would be very dangerous for this country because he wants to bring troops like you back from your post from all over the world.
Well, I think it would be even more dangerous to start nitpicking wars with other countries. Someone like Iran, Israel is more than capable of.
All right, we just lost our connection, unfortunately. Come on.
Rounds to deal with this so that you don't lose, I think the foothold that you have with these tariffs. Are there ways to do this if the Supreme Court comes down on you the wrong way?
Sure. One of the things they talked about is Section 232, which was 9-0 at the Supreme Court. And that also is about tariffs. So there are plenty of tariff rules that the president has no matter what. But
I have a message for the American people. Last
no concern. It's because there's a sea of difference between these two countries and Pakistan. We
Information war.